Welcome back to biology, everybody. Hopefully that weirds them out. We'll see. All right. So today we are going to continue our discussion. All the biomes together make the entire biosphere, right?
Yeah.
So did we write anything else, or is that right where we left off?
That's the thing of the.
Okay. So remember, there's a lot of stuff in this section, and we talk about a lot of stuff in here. Do you guys feel as though we go too fast, too slow, or does it feel okay time-wise? Okay, I would like to go a little bit faster, but we'll have to work it out because I'm not going to go faster just to get through the stuff. I'd rather we understand it better and just maybe get through a little bit less in the end. Our focus today, however, is going to be on those ecosystems, and this is the last day of 2.1, just so you know. We're going to look a little bit closer at ecosystems and specifically how things within our ecosystems interact. So, ecosystem interactions, and I'm going to take the S off of that, ecosystems. Ecosystem interactions. Cool. So, as we look at this, there's a few different things that we're just going to sneak in some vocab stuff. Have you guys ever heard the word habitat? What's a habitat? A place. So yeah, like I'm good with that. It's a place where stuff lives, right? So let's sneak in a definition here. We have a few big ones. First and foremost, that's an eraser, so that didn't make sense. First big one is going to be, we're going to define the word habitat. So there's a ton of vocab in this first section. A habitat. You guys are right. Where something lives. So I'm going to be more specific. Instead of saying something, we're just going to say an area where organisms live. Now I'm going to say organism, and then in parentheses I'll put an S so that it can be a single organism, or organisms, plural. An area where organisms live. That's it. Now, these things, they vary wildly. What does it mean to vary? If I say something varies, what does that mean? So that's a good thought. Have you guys ever seen the word vary in math, like a variable?
Yeah.
Do those change?
Yeah.
To vary or variation just means change. So these things change a lot, and it depends on the context. So I'm just going to make a little follow-up. Vary, V-A-R-Y, for variation, a lot. And I struggle here. You guys might be able to help me. Is that one word or two words? A lot.
2 words.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How sure?
Sure.
Okay.
Every time I type in a computer, it just.
Awesome. Good. I appreciate that. Okay. So here's what I mean by that. If I asked, what is the habitat for, let's think of something that's not very crazy. What's the habitat for an ant? Where does an ant live? So yeah, it lives underground a lot of the time, right? Ant piles are what they're called where I'm from. But ant hill, cavern, whatever you want to call it, they have a very small little area that they live in, right?
Yeah.
Now, they will leave. They will. They'll go out however far. I don't know exactly how far. That's an interesting question that I just don't know the answer to. But it's not a very big region, right? Like if we had an ant, oh my gosh, why am I, a colony. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
That's the whole group. If we had an ant colony in the center of this room, they might make it down to the end of the school. I don't know that I think they would make it much further than that, like all the way to the other end of the school. Maybe they go further, but that's a long way to go. Now, that's not very large. That is the habitat for a particular ant, right? Okay, or it could be a single tree. If there's a big ant colony in a tree somewhere, then maybe they spend their entire lives in that tree. Possible. How about a wolf? What's a wolf's habitat? So they might sleep in a cave or a den, you might call it, a wolf's den, which might be a cave. But do they stay in the cave all the time?
No.
No. How, do they travel a lot?
Yeah.
So their habitat where they live, because they have to travel and they have to hunt and they, travel around, they're gigantic, right?
Yeah.
So you can go from a really, really, really small habitat, like maybe we can even go smaller. You guys ever seen the tide come in and then go out and then it leaves like little puddles?
Yeah.
There are life forms that will live their entire lives in tide pools. That's tiny. Like it can be this big and their entire life is in that little thing. Or they can be gigantic. So I'm just going to say tide pools. These can be tiny. Or we can think about like whole forests. which would be like wolves, for example. Is that tiny? No, this is huge. Now, both of these count as habitats. It's just where something lives and operates. Where's human habitat? For real though, like yeah, like literally almost the entire Earth with the exception of the oceans because I'm not a mer person. Okay, habitat, cool. You guys have that one locked in seemingly. This word you've maybe never seen before. Niche. Okay, I'll tell you, it comes from French. So if you speak French, you might have a. I'm gonna put in parentheses how to pronounce this as well. Yeah, I say niche where I'm from. Niche. Either one, niche or niche, is another thing that we're going to talk about when we're thinking about interactions within. So you don't have to put this, and I don't really have a standard for this. Can you guys read cursive?
Yes.
Or can you tell that's kind of italic? Okay, this is our pronunciation. It's a niche or niche. I'm fine with either. You guys maybe have heard the word. Any idea what it is? Yeah, so it's a slang. I don't want to know what it's slang for. I've never seen that word, so it must not be brain rot, because I spend a lot of time looking that up to make people awkward. When we're talking about the niche of a particular animal or organism, we are looking at the specific role or position. I'm going to say slash position of an, gosh, and I wish we had a shorthand for organism, but we can't just say org because that means like 10 different things. Organization. Can I use org? You guys go with that? You don't have to write it. If you guys ever have an idea for a shorthand that you write down that I don't, let me know. A specific role or position of an organism in its environment. So, for example, what do birds eat? And that's a really broad question. Some birds eat seeds, for sure. Do all birds eat seeds? No, some birds eat birds. Like, it's weird. They're cannibalistic. Some birds eat birds. Some birds eat meat. Some birds eat worms. Isn't that neat? I feel like Dr. Seuss right now. Okay. Do you know how many birds that eat plants? Some. I would count a seed as a plant, just for the record. Do you know how many birds that eat living plants? A chicken. It'll eat corn if it's like, it'll pick corn off the cob, yeah, for sure. You ever seen a hummingbird? Hummingbirds don't eat birds. Hummingbirds aren't big enough to eat seeds. How do hummingbirds survive? So they're too small to eat other birds. They're tiny. When you imagine a hummingbird, it hums, and they're like unique because they can hover, and it's crazy that they can hover. But they hover in front of what? They have their long little beaks and their... Holy cow, they eat the nectar in there, right? Do you know any other birds that do that? Maybe. Like, I don't know, a honeybird? I don't either. That's why I didn't want to say that no. Okay. There's not many. I can't think of another bird that does that. The niche of that bird is to use the flowers to eat, but then in doing so, it takes the pollen and it spreads it to other flowers, and we get more flowers. So it has a very specific role in the environment. Bees do something similar, but they're obviously not birds. The niche of a hummingbird is its role or position is it helps to propagate the growth of more flowers. Bees do the same. If bees died today, every bee on the planet died, how do humans do? Oh, we're in big trouble because they pollinate like everything. Okay, so don't squish bees. Wasps, you can squish. Not bees. Okay, so every animal has a different niche that it might fill. Now, if we want it to be a little bit easier to think about because the role or position might be kind of challenging to lock in sometimes, we can think about this as how life gets, and I'm just going to have a small list here. What are the things you need for life?
Water.
So, water for sure. Do you need food?
Yeah.
So I'm going to count sustenance. I'll just write food, but waters I'm just going to include in here. Food, what else do you need? Or everything?
House or
Good. I'm going to call that shelter.
Yeah, shelter.
And then this one is more looking at wild animal stuff. But they need to get food, they need to get shelter, and they need the ability to reproduce. Like, that's what life really needs to flourish. Now, as we go through here, pretty cool because sometimes things get greedy. So, let's kick forward. I'm going to switch color. What color am I going to use here, Zed? Red. Got it. Cool, cool. All right. So, here we go. We're going to be discussing within our ecosystems. Obviously, animals have a habitat that they interact with all the time. They have niches or roles or positions that they fulfill in order to do these things. Live healthily, get food, reproduce, all that. Now, these are essentially looking at interactions within the environment, maybe not like within the specific community, but we do need community interactions, and some of these are super cool. And I think I can write a lot less than I have in my notes. Community interactions. But I think here's where our good discussion is going to happen today. Okay. Is competition a part of life?
Yes.
It's part of your life with sports and things like that. Is it part of wild animals' life?
Yeah.
Why? What are they competing for?
Food.
Okay, they compete for a bunch of different things, right? So, there's a few ways. Competition exists. We know it. They exist for food. This isn't a vocab. I don't know why I did that. Okay, we can compete for food. Do animals compete for anything else?
Land, territory.
Territory, for sure. Anything else?
Women.
Yes. 100%
Oh,
yes. What do wild rams, which is just a male version of a goat, what do? There's like a big famous thing.
They challenge each other.
Yeah, they challenge, they headbutt, right? They slam into each other, and it's crazy to watch if you've never seen it. They're competing. They're not doing that for fun. They're doing that to see who's stronger, because the stronger ram gets to do what?
Freedom, chief, or get women.
So I wouldn't say chief. Let's be more specific. You're right. I'm okay with get women. Boys club, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's use a better word, though. The strongest of the group gets to,
So lead.
maybe, if they're like a pack, they're the ones that get to reproduce, right?
Yeah.
They're the one that their mates are looking at going, those are the genetics that need to be passed on. Okay, so when these compete, I just want to make a little comment here. You guys watch TikTok and YouTube and all that stuff, I imagine. You've probably seen, I don't know who the quote's attributed to, hard times make strong men.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay? Strong men make what?
Stronger man.
Good times. Good times make what? Strong men, hard times make strong men.
Yeah.
Strong men make good times. Good times make soft men. Right? Like they're not, that's maybe not the best verb for it. Soft men make hard times. And then all of a sudden hard times make strong men. It's just a cycle, right? Like it happens. Whether or not that's really true on a societal level, I don't know. But I do want to stress this out. The strong survive. Now, strong in our sense, like we're not wild animals. We are animals, don't get me wrong. We're primates. Obviously, we look like a lot of different primates. We behave very similar to primates, but we are not wild animals. We have culture, things that others don't. Is this necessarily true today for human beings? Maybe. It depends on what you mean by strong, but because we're so developed as a animal, that can mean a million different things. I can be strong emotionally. Maybe that's what it means, and that's what's going to attract a mate. Or I'm strong physically, and that's what's going to attract a mate for me. I can be strong in a lot of different ways, right? Okay. In nature, when we say the strong survive, does that necessarily imply that anybody who's not strong, or any animal that's not strong, just dies? No. What does it mean?
They'll follow us. Like, how
Maybe.
to survive.
Possibly. Who's gonna, like, let's say any male that we're after, the strongest of those males is gonna attract who?
The people.
Yeah, the ladies, right? Their mates. The strong breed and their genes survive on. That's all it means. Now, in really, really hard times, like let's say there's almost no food, but we have 10 lions. Literally, the strongest lion is the one that's going to survive because he's going to be the one that gets food. Now, it's not always that way. It just depends. Oftentimes, we look for coexistence. Like that's what nature wants. That's the nicest way it can be. What do lions eat? Now, as we go through here, though, we have two different types of animals. Some animals eat other animals, like it just happens. We eat other animals, for example. We're going to sneak a definition in here within these community interactions, and we're going to define the word predation. Before I finish it, what is the other word that makes you think of with? Good. Predation is what we're looking at. And if your mind goes right to predator, it's in the right spot. Predation is a verb, not that that really matters for our point of view, but predation is literally the act of pursuing, catching, and eating to survive. Now, when we have predation, and this exists all over the world, top of the food chain is primarily, like the whole food chain is essentially just a big long, hey, what are our layers of predation that we deal with? Now, you have to have two different things to have predation. What do you call the one that does the hunting? You said it a second ago. So scavengers don't hunt. They steal gold gross meat. Predator. Okay. This is a hunter. Give me an example of a predator. Lions. Give me another one. Cheetah. Give me another one. You guys are stuck on cats right now. Give me a non-cat predator.
Non-cat? Crocodile.
Crocodile. Give me a non-reptile predator.
Shark.
Some monkeys are predators for sure. Sharks. Good. Give me another one. Get smaller. So sure, absolutely human beings. Get smaller. Smaller than a human. Ants. What do they hunt for? Maybe sometimes. I'd say they're more scavengers in that sense. Get smaller. Spiders are good predators. They're real good at. They don't have to hunt. They trap, but we'll call it hunting. Okay. Predators are the hunter, and they are hunting the who? The prey. So we have predator-prey relationships, and the prey is the hunted. Now, when we start talking about it, especially because we've been talking about big cats several times today, but my mind and your mind, I assume, goes right to the biggest, baddest animals of them all, right? Like crocodiles are pretty hardcore. Lions and tigers and bears and sharks and all those things are pretty hardcore. Spiders are hardcore, yes or no? They're pretty awesome, realistically. I don't like them, but they're awesome. I just think they're ugly. They just give me the heebie-jeebies is what I call it. They make my skin crawl. Anyway, insects, remember, insects, not spider. Arachnids are spiders. It can be on the really, 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 really small cell, though. So, like, in your body, hypothetically, have you noticed anybody in the school sick? I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Like, I'm sure it is. In your body, is it possible that there's a virus?
Yes.
What? Possible. Hopefully it's not like influenza, but it could be. Does your body hunt that?
Yeah.
Who? What in your body hunts? White blood cells, right? They hunt, and they're the predator in that predator-prey relationship. Now, other things. Any of your parents garden or grow plants inside your house? Okay. There's little tiny green bugs that you'll see from time to time on them. They're called aphids. They're really common here. Aphids are a pest that you have to fight. Now, if you're growing stuff especially to eat and you don't want to spray chemicals on it, there's another really cool way that you can do this if you're a large-scale organic operation. If you don't want to spray pesticides, you bring in more bugs because they hunt the aphids. Anybody know what bugs hunt aphids? You're thinking like centipedes? All right, so I can't, are you really colorblind? I can't tell. You're not going to tell me the truth here. All right. Okay. What's up? If you never need to scoot forward, you can, okay? I have very similar stuff with my eyes. Anyway, ladybugs. Hunt them. You bring in a big box of ladybugs and they'll hunt the aphids. Beyond that, there's other plants that are also predators. Somebody mentioned it the other day. Give me a snap. What am I talking about? Snappy plant, that's... Ooh. The Venus flytrap is one example of it. There's several of them. There's some flowers that have like chambers that make it so the flies can't get out because flies aren't very intelligent. Where they'll fly in, they'll get stuck, and then they'll decompose, and the plant will use that energy. Anyway, we don't have to write all that. Predator prey exists. Last little tiny section, we're going to get through it. Let's do dark blue. And I think I have room here. Okay. Main section again. So we have gone through today. We've started with our ecosystem interactions. We moved to within a community in an ecosystem. And now our last one is we're going to look at symbiosis. And this is a vocab. S-Y-M-B-I, symbiosis. Have you ever seen this word?
Yes.
You might have seen symbiotic or symbiotic. Okay. Sim, if you think in this, you don't have to draw this, but my mind goes right to math. I could draw a heart. I'm not very good at drawing hearts. But if I do this first, and I do this, am I going to draw a decent heart at least?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to do what? I'll start here, and I don't even have to see that other side. This isn't very good, but that's an okay heart. It's really not that great, but that's okay. Symmetry. Symmetry means like togetherness, the same, right? So when we look at symbiosis, let's just break that down real quick. Symmetry, together or the same, right? Parts of the same object. Okay? What about bio? Life, right? So something about togetherness and life. Now, this is not going to be a shocker, I don't believe, but we're going to just define this as follows. Life together, essentially, is what we're thinking here. We're going to think of symbiosis, or symbiosis, however you want to pronounce it, as the close relationship. Close relationship between two or more species. Now, there are a variety of ways for this, but symbiosis is just a close relationship that exists in nature between two or more species. All right. Did I say if it was a good relationship or a fair or a bad one?
No.
It's just a relationship, right? There's bad relationships, there's good relationships. So, we're going to look at the three of these, just so you know, three. There's three relationships or three types of symbiosis that we're going to look at. The first of these is called mutualism. Mutualism. Okay. What does it mean to be mutual?
A friendly relation.
Say that again?
A friendly relation. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, that's great language there. Mutual just means like working together. Now, if we have a mutual relationship, we're not hurting each other. We are trying to benefit each other, right? So I'm just going to make these as short as I can. We're assuming for each of these that it's between two species, and exactly two, just for simplicity's sake. Okay, mutualism is simply a relationship, or it's a type of symbiosis. Both benefit. So we've used several examples of mutualism already today without ever using the word. Hummingbirds get food from the flower, right? They get their nectar, and as they're getting their nectar, pollen gets all over them. They then go to another flower, and they get more nectar, and spread the pollen between them. Does the hummingbird benefit there?
Yes.
It gets food. Does the plant benefit there? It gets pollination, right? Like it spreads its seeds. So as we're looking at this, there's a bunch of them that we can use. If you want examples, you don't have to write it down, but I want to include a few. I should have chosen a shorter one because it's a long word. Hummingbird and flowers. They both benefit from their relationship. Can you think of another one?
A bee and a bug.
Yep, so that was my natural thought. Yes, I'm not going to write that one because it's the same sort of mutualism. But you're right, absolutely. Have you guys ever seen a sloth?
Yeah.
What's a sloth?
It's like a slow mammal.
It's a really slow mammal. Do you know where they live?
Jungle.
In the jungle. So they're in South America. I would assume they're in Southeast Asia. Probably. I've never seen them. Are they hairy?
Yeah.
Yes. What color's their hair?
Gray.
Gray is typically how you see it. If I said they're green, would you believe me? They move so slow, and their hair holds so much water that what do you think grows on something that moves really slow and is really moist all the time?
Snail.
So maybe a snail. Any plant?
Yeah, probably.
Moss and algae grow on them. If you see a wild sloth, oftentimes they're going to be green. Okay, it's not bad for the sloth. And I'll show you, like, they're odd. Why, if I'm a sloth that can't move quickly and I'm in a desert where, jungle, where maybe animals climb trees and hunt, seems like I'm kind of not in a very good place. Why would I want algae or moss to grow on me and make me green?
Camouflage.
Oh my, camouflage. Now, I benefit if I'm a sloth, right? If I'm slow and I get like moss growing all over me, I'm harder to see. The moss gets a place to live healthily. They benefit each other in that situation. Other ones. Are sharks mean? So I think that we should say, well, depends. Are they mean? Depends to who, right? Sharks and people don't really get along real well. What do sharks eat other than people? Other fish. Do they eat small fish or big fish? Big fish. It wouldn't make sense for a big animal to hunt little tiny fish, right? Okay. There's a fish called a remora. Sharks have lots of teeth.
Oh yeah, they
Remoras swim around with sharks and they swim in and out of their mouths. Sharks don't touch them because what do the remora eat?
the fish stuck inside his teeth.
Yeah, so check, is that mutualism or are they both benefiting?
Low.
What does a remora get out of it? Food. What does a shark get? Clean teeth. They clean their teeth for them like they're the dentists. Okay, so mutualism, it exists. Is every relationship in nature or just in your life mutually beneficial to both? Is every relationship that you've ever seen or been a part of, hopefully not had a lot of experience with bad relationships, but other relationships where not both people benefit? So well, it's weird language. I'm just going to keep going with it. Second one, we get mutualism together. They both benefit. We get a second, commensalism. Commensalism. And that should be all caps. It's a vocab. I don't know why it wasn't. I'll fix it. Commensalism. It is a big word. Okay. Now, mutualism is when both benefit. Like, I get something and you get something out of it. Is it possible that I get something out of it, but you don't? Yeah. Now, that may seem unfair if we look at it from that point of view, but it's not always a bad thing. So in commensalism, all we're seeing is one benefits. I'll write the word one, you don't have to. One, and we're talking species, just to make this shorter. One benefits without, and I'm going to use W/ for with. So one benefits without negative impact on the other. So one of these species gets something awesome out of the deal, and the other one doesn't get anything beneficial, but it also doesn't hurt it. So when we look at this, moss grows on trees. You've seen that. I'm sure you've seen it everywhere. The tree doesn't get anything out of it. Like, no benefit to the tree. No harm to the tree either, but no benefit whatsoever. What does the moss get out of that? The nutrients, or even without going into that, a safe place to exist. So I'm just going to have a couple examples. Moss and trees. There's an easy example. Moss and trees. The moss benefits, the tree isn't hurt. Okay, another one. You guys ever seen Finding Nemo?
Yeah.
He's a what? He's a clownfish. Where does he live?
In a coral reef.
On a reef. Specifically, on that reef, his house, Nemo struggles to say the word, an anemone. Okay, an anemone, right? Clownfish live within an anemone. Anemone. An anemone. Kendrick. All right, cool. So as we're looking at this, we're just going to say those clownfish, if you've ever been to a tropical reef, which I've not, that I recall ever like I've swum around them. You guys ever touched an anemone? What's it do to you? It tickles? I think it stings. Anemones sting. Like,
So stings or tickle. Well, I like it.
okay, so maybe you do. And I don't know, maybe I assume anemones of different types have different things or different issues. But clownfish and anemone, A-N-E-M, anem, oni, O-N-E. It looks like anemone, but it's anemone. A-N-E-M-O-N-E. Okay, anemone sting most animals. So if I'm hunting for a clownfish who happens to live there, I like for a little tiny clownfish, you think it's really worth it for me to go get stung and irritated by that? Maybe, probably not though, realistically. The clownfish does not hurt the anemone. The clownfish gets protection, the anemone gets nothing. Commensalism. Okay, last one. We have seen two types of relationships. One where they both benefit, one where one benefits but doesn't hurt the other. What's a third option? One benefits and does what to the other? So nothing is commensalism. If one does good and the other one just doesn't care, no impact whatsoever, that's commensalism. The last one, as soon as I write it, you'll have an idea. Parasitism. Parasitism. Now, as we're looking at this, one benefits with negative impact on the other. Now, I don't remember who it was. It might have been RJ, or it could have honestly just been a completely different class. You guys ever played The Last of Us or watched The Last of Us? Okay. Do you know what that's based off of? Sort of. It's much, so yes, obviously they're zombies, right? But it's based off of true things. Yep. So, we're gonna pause real quick. I don't do a ton of videos. What's the one bug you hate the very most? And it's gonna be different for everybody. What's some bugs that make you hate them, you wish they were just gone? Holy mosquitoes! Mosquitoes aren't parasites in the sense of the word that you probably think of, but we have a very parasitism relationship with mosquitoes. They get our blood, and we get what? Itchy welts. Like, it's not even just nothing. Like, if it was nothing, it wouldn't be a huge deal. When I think of these relationships, I think almost immediately to thinking of bugs like that. Bed bugs. They get a place to live. We get painful, itchy bites and terrible, terrible try to deal with it. Fleas are the same way. We don't get anything from fleas except disease. They get our blood. Ticks are the same way. All these animals operate, or insects operate in that sense. Now, the one that your book uses is pretty cool, and I'm trying to remember this. There is a specific type of parasitism where it's just going to be a follow-up, and it's not its own vocab. Can you guys read cursive? Can you read my cursive?
Yeah.
Brood. So if you've never heard that, that's like offspring. Brood parasitism does exist. The example here that your book uses is awesome. And I'm just going to write it down, but we're not going to talk. You can write as much as you want. I'm just going to write the word. We have the brown-headed cowbird. Now, first and foremost, what is a brood? So it's a good thought. Not in this context. Maybe, so I'm gonna say no, but with an asterisk that I'm not sure. Maybe there's a word that associates with it. Brood is just your offspring. Okay. How do birds give offspring? How do they, like, so they obviously have to have some sort of relationship to fertilize and such. Do birds go to the hospital and give live birth? No. How do birds make offspring? In a nest. And what goes in that nest? An egg or many eggs. You think building a nest is always super easy? No, if you had the option of building your own house, or there's a house right there that you can just move into without like ethics or anything concerned, do you guys agree it'd be so much easier to just live in their house? Yeah. What do you think is easier for a parent? Raising your own kid, taking care of them, feeding them, or having a nanny to do it? Okay. Brood offspring parasitism doesn't have to necessarily impact in a super negative way other than resources. If I'm a brown-headed cowbird and I'm flying around, I'm ready to lay my eggs, and I look and say, oh, there's a nest right there with some eggs in it. and I don't think that that bird knows how to count. I'm gonna lay an egg in here. If that bird doesn't notice the original nest there with now has the brown-headed cowbird's egg in it, that mama bird's gonna take care of that egg. That egg's gonna hatch, and the mama bird's gonna then take care of that chick, which is then gonna grow up. So that mama bird's gonna feed it. Actual parent doesn't have to do anything because they have used brood parasitism. They have just taken advantage of the system and said, you're gonna raise my kid, you're gonna feed them, you're gonna do everything. It's awesome. Cool. Okay. Whew. Big thought here. 2 options. Quick vote. I can give you the assignment tonight, and then we can do like a vocab quiz and start the next section tomorrow. Or we can say today was a good day and a good discussion. We'll start tomorrow with the assignment in class together. Homework or in class?
Freedom.
Which one is that? That wasn't one of the options.
It's depend on those two.
Let's do the thing tomorrow in class if you're cool with it. If you're struggling on other things, catch up. Cool. Homework, if you're watching this video, because I may not record tomorrow in class, Freddie and RJ, because it's Thursday, right? Football starts today. Cool. Okay, you don't have to write this down yet, but it is going to be homework 2.1, page 34, and 1 through 6. Do not do this tonight. We will spend the first 15 or 20 minutes tomorrow in class doing this. 10 to 20. I don't know how long it'll be. Cool, cool. We're finished with a section. We have another section to start. There might be a vocab type quiz tomorrow, just so you know. Can't promise it, but there could be. Cool. All right. Later, Raiders.